Sorry, give me just a second, everybody. Let me turn down my fan real quick. I'll be working on a couple panels, working on a couple things. This is a comic I've been working on for a while. It's not perfect by any sense of the word, because obviously you can tell that the art in some areas is, but it's getting there. Hold on. There we go. So hopefully, no, it's the wrong color. I obviously might remaster it or tweak it on my, what is it called? My freaking computer whenever I get that completely set up. But this is a Star Wars comic that I've been working on behind the scenes for a bit. I've tried to keep updates on it kind of vague, or just small updates, because one, I am learning everything on how to make a comic all on my own, by myself, and stuff like that. So I'm kind of trying to keep that bit of like just me, so I'm hoping because I am learning everything all on the fly. So yeah, you have the main part that I want to do, and then there's everything else. So I did think about switching up the panel placement and have this be the final panel right down here, and moving that where I have also another panel where Cal gets knighted by his former master. But the thing is, that happens after the, what's it called? So maybe having like one more panel that sets up the fight a little bit more with the second sister, I might try to do, but I don't really know at the moment. That's just its own little can of worms. So yeah. Because I am planning on doing some request stuff. I've just been busy, so I'm hoping to do more. That's just been something that I've been meaning to do. Because I did get a request to do some type of art for somebody, and I've been meaning to get to it, along with a couple other things, but I just keep forgetting to go look for reference, and I keep forgetting to do a bunch, like some stuff. So it's like, well, if I can't do that, I'm gonna try at some point. So yeah. I'll say that the panel work has been a unique challenge because obviously these are supposed to be glass shards, and glass is notoriously very difficult for me to draw. But I've had a lot of encouragement. I've had a lot of people that have coached me through little things. And stuff like that. So, if you guys are curious, if anybody is watching, this is something like I've been working on for, or had it in mind to do for a long time. I just kind of put off the idea because I felt like I didn't have any experience, and I felt like you know, yeah. I plan on maybe tweaking it, because it is a bit pixely. But the thing is that I want to make sure that even if it looks, whatever, it's still something people can read, something people like, you know. So, yeah. I've tried to keep updates on this particular project to a minimum because I'm not a comic book artist. And, it's depressing, isn't it? Because, like, I don't know what to do. Ugh, the hand looks awful. How do I... There we go. Okay, so he has a glove on. That explains it. Okay. Why is it hands are so difficult for me to draw? This part's fine. This part I don't like as much. Ugh. Ow. My shoulder. I've been dealing with shoulder pains all day. I think I pulled it in my sleep. By accident. I don't know. No. Okay. So... Hmm. Oh. God damn it. Oh, come on. Ugh. Hmm. Ugh. The juices. Yeah. The goose is juices loose into boosh boosh. I don't like how this looks. God damn it. I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach like the anatomy of the what's it called here? Bro, I thought I had my entire book uh planned out. Doesn't mean, yeah. Well, I know the story I have in mind, but I'm right now just this is just like a fun little side project. The thing is, I'm just struggling to draw the anatomy of it. I can never draw like this. It's good shit. Well, it's my first time drawing a comic, and a legitimate comic, and I just have like some things prepared, well, some things I'm like doing the panel work um uh and figuring it out as I go. So like you have elements, some of it's figured out while other stuff ain't. And I've like taken notes from other comics, and also like had people give me advice when I needed it. Um, 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 so I'm basically kind of it's difficult because I have to like really figure out the best approaches to certain things. And not everything I do is going to be spot on perfect. Because when you look at like some of the panel work, it's very much me kind of like having to adapt on the fly. Um, so I'm learning as I go along, because I have some things figured out for the story. Hold on. I learned a lot from like studying other comic books, but also I learned a lot from just figuring it out and just doing storyboards, which is a good way of like figuring out storytelling on your own front. Which a big thank you to Crystal on that front for teaching me to like actually do that more, because you can obviously refine the more you go along, than anything else. So it's like the stuff you would think about at first, it was like, well, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe, but you don't always have to. That's the thing, is that relying on the ABC version of paneling, so for instance, like the square, 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 doesn't always need to be the way you do things. You just have to make sure you have a good form of storytelling and make sure your paneling is right to left. So for me, I had to learn really quickly to adapt from my previous version of storytelling from what I did when I did the old version of the comic. Because if you notice, the storytelling wasn't bad. It was the art and the way I did things that just felt very sloppy, too fast, and not as neat. So for this, there's a lot more refining. There's a lot more playing with the panels and adapting the way I'm going about it compared to the previous attempt. So I can mess around with depth of field, look, shading, and obviously go back and look at notes if I need to for anything that is a brand new scene. It's a big reason why, like, page 1 itself is, like, very much been... I spend about, like, an hour or two for each panel, because you have to do the inking, you have to do anatomy, posing, then shade or whatever. And you have to figure out what works, and not everything is going to work the way we want it to, sadly, which I've found out the hard way. But at the same time, you can mess around with stuff that you wouldn't normally think to mess around with as well. So, like, you can add a bit more depth of field, more detail, and really figure out a style, which really, the comic itself doesn't really have too much of a style, because, like, most comics are very flat tones, or, like, very flat dimensions and stuff, where this comic art style, you can tell there's a lot more painter-esque to it when drawing it compared to something you would see from a webtoon artist or stuff like that. And that could be a mixture of, like, my experience level, but it also could just be it's a mixture of, like, just what I'm comfortable with in general, because I can mess around with the look, obviously. But I also don't want to do too much to where it doesn't have the same feel as something else. So that's why each panel I try to spend a fairly long time working on the characters first before I do the backgrounds. Because, one, characters are easier to do if you have a good idea of them. But if you don't, they can be harder from my experience. At least when doing this, it has been easier to do, I would say, the characters compared to backgrounds. Because, like, backgrounds, you have to really think about how exactly you're going to approach it. You got to think about what exactly is a part of it. And what exactly you're doing. That's the thing, is that, you know, the storytelling is a key element, but you also have the other side factors that make up the storytelling as well. So I'm learning all of this on the fly. How's the Mad Hatter? It is going decently. I do have bits of that. Like, I've re-recorded the final section because I know that's the one that's... I've had to, like, look at the test recordings, or the test recording, the big one, because I was looking at the original version of the test recording of the Mad Hatter section, and it is around, like, 15 minutes, and I was like, okay, this is way too goddamn long. So I was like, I wanted to find a way to, like, to record certain bits that I know are going to take a long while to explain, and simplify them a little bit to make them easier, and stuff like that. So what I did, I would say, what I did was I re-recorded the final section a little bit, which is not done, but the Mad Hatter boss fight itself, and I tried to do art for it. I have, like, maybe one piece, and then the other piece that I want to record, because I have something for the second section, is one which I can just show you. Hold on. It's not finished at all, obviously. But it's I think it was like this one. I know there's a bit of it that's better, whatever. But you know, you have the bit with Hatter. He's holding a knife. He's stabbing it into the board. But I also want to do a picture or an art piece of the actual branched level. Yeah. Itself, all on its own. Basically, because the way I see the final boss fight with Hatter, the way I see it looking, is that it's split into 3 sections, kind of. Think almost the Marvel Spider-Man 2 Venom fight, how, like, you had the 3 bits built up, like the little arenas. Well, think that, but you have the first main arena that's kind of, like, sectioned off, but it's like you have the ability that you can go to the other ones if you need to. But it is big enough to where you can whatever. But the second bit of that arena is, like, almost a ruined structure. So it's like half island here, like, whatever. And then the third one is more of like a bigger arena or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to picture it, but think, if you watch Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, do you remember the final scene in that movie where they're all about to battle and it's on the chessboard? Think that, but if it was kind of done a bit differently. and that's the final little bit. I'm pulling a lot of ideas for Hatter's boss fight from his previous game encounters, and stuff like that. Obviously, I wanted to make sure I got certain things like somewhat figured out, because I also will have to make custom images and art animation stuff for the Tweedles, because of course they're going to have their own boss fights. You have the 3 Hatter Associates, which I'll briefly, don't want to spoil this, but fuck it, who cares? You have the normal henchmen that are mind controlled, but there's going to be different variations of them that pull from Alice in Wonderland, which I'll have to come up with ideas for, to make their combat, like how you fight them, interesting. And then you have the Hatter, like the henchmen, the big, like the actual head honchos of each level. So like you have the 2 Tweedles that are completely different, and then you have the White Rabbit. The thing is that the Tweedles, I wanted their boss fights to not be... Here's the thing with the Tweedles and how I wanted them to work. The Tweedles would be a variation of like a plethora of other things. What I wanted for them was them to be different. Because I obviously know that a lot of people be like, oh, they're just going to be like the Bronoviches. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, that's the one thing I was like, okay, if I'm going to have the Tweedles, I want their boss fights to be completely different from one another. So what I was picturing is like the Tweedles would have those elements of the Bronoviches, but they would be completely different. So like Tweedledee is like the first little fight you have to deal with and whatever. How I picture both Tweedledee and Tweedledum working is they would be completely different from one another. Their boss fights would be completely, like, 3 different stages, completely apart from one another, and how they operate, even though they would share similarities to the Abramoviches and other stuff, I would also try to take influence from brutes and big head honchos. So Tweedledee, his first stage, is very similar to like the Abramoviches, just a little bit, but a little different. So let's say he's a big guy, right? He's big guy. But he also, similar to like Tweedledee, the Abramoviches, each of the Tweedles at one point does have a signature type of weapon. Tweedledee has a heart-shaped axe. It's... I don't know how you can do a heart-shaped bladed axe, but I am going to try. But basically, it's he has that as like a melee weapon that he can use, but how he uses it compared to Mr. Hammer is a lot different. He actually can... he can swing it down, he can jump and slam just like Mr. Hammer, but he also can throw it. So like if you're too far away, he can throw it and you actually are forced to dodge, but if you get caught in the blade, Batman will be pinned against the wall with the axe halfway near his throat. you have to, before he comes in and tries to decapitate you, which you can get decapitated, you have to smash the certain button and pull it off. But you can dodge it and it can get trapped in the wall, and you can stop him from going to pick it up by beating the shit out of him. You know, stuff like that. So small little things to the boss fights to make them completely different. The first stage, he does have that axe, but he also can do other stuff. Maybe I could see him using some type of other attacks, like maybe using the axe where he uses it to pick up rubble and like take it, like a portion of it that he chops, and it gets stuck to the blade, and he can, as he swings it, he can launch rubble at you from the arena, which I thought would be a pretty cool little idea. So it's just small little things that add a little bit of nuance to the bosses, just a little bit. Because, like, Tweedledee, I had that, and then I had his second phase where he pulls out, like, a salt shaker, or, like, one of those turnable salt shakers. Similar to Alice Madness Returns, he uses it like a minigun, which forces you to have to dodge roll. You have 3 strategies to deal with this. Wait till he runs out of ammo, and he starts having to reload it. And you can go in for some quick attacks. The second is like basically using because you can dodge, but also you have to take cover because he can still hit you sometimes with stray bullets that'll ricochet. And there's other stuff like using like the glue grenades if you do this at later in the game. Or using this or that, I don't know. Just small little things that I thought would be pretty cool. As like a small little changes that add that Arkham level flair that make the boss fights fun. Because to my knowledge, like looking at like boss fights and stuff like that, I wanted to make sure if I was to design each one of the bosses, I like, especially for like redoing Hatter's entire section, I wanted it to have that feel from the games where it like mixes together, because Arkham Origins is known for I need to stretch, so sorry. It's known for reusing assets and basically kind of doing that, and I was like, okay, I don't have an issue with that. I know that a lot of people do. I was like, okay, if there a way to do that in a way that feels less insulting to the fan base in the way that the original did it, because like, yes, there's a lot of villains that are in side missions that they reuse that, you know, have already been done, and they don't need to be done. Like, Hatter is like another one that they do. But the thing is, like, his side mission compared to Arkham City is a lot better. It has a completely different thought process, a different feel to it. And my thought was, okay, let's keep that intact, but expand on it. Since they're already... hold on a second. Let me find a better place to set this. Crap. They're already kind of pulling from Scarecrow with the side mission. When you look at going into Wonderland, the camera position changes, you're dealing with more puzzles, environmental stuff, you're doing this and that.
And I was like, okay, that's great. I love that. That's the best part about the side mission. My issue is that it's very quick, and it's a one and done. And that's the issue I had. I was like, why? Why? It makes no sense to me. Because, like, you would think that there would be more to it. It's the same issue I had with Deadshots. It's like a one and done type of side mission. And I don't want to just extend certain side missions without a reason. But, like, this is one that I felt like you could do so much with the idea. And it's something like when you look at the visuals of the side mission, you look at the concepts. I was like, well, I was basically sitting to myself with like, okay, if that is the case, and we're going to do that, why not mix together the two core elements that I feel like work for the side mission, and that is the Scarecrow side of it, and mix that to get like the core concepts of the side mission gameplay wise that are recycled. I want to use, but I want to make them better. I was like, that's the thing, is that I felt like there's a lot of good ideas there that can be used. There's a lot of things that I personally didn't have an issue with. My only issues that I had with the side mission when looking at it from a wider lens, when rewriting and tweaking things, was that it was too short. No pun not intended, because you know Mad Hatter's short and stuff. But no, it was one of those things where I felt like I wanted to make sure that if we are going to have something for Hatter, that it would live up to the namesake, and it would be this, because his missions are always the most remarkable. And I was like, because like when you look at Scarecrow's missions, they play on the idea of fear. They basically, you know, turn that fear into something even worse. And I'm just sitting there like, well, why not do that and go further with it? Like, I want to see more from this particular concept here. I want to see like something remarkable. I want to basically play on the concept of like taking the most wonder, like the idea of Wonderland is it's supposed to have this inch of wonder, and flipping that on its head. Like, that's what it did. And because that's what the idea of Scarecrow's missions did. It was basically taking your fears, taking like your sense of reality, and warping it. Because are you in a sense of like where you actually can tell what is real and what is not? And that is what I loved about that core concept. I love that you basically don't know what is real, what is not. And I wanted to extend that. And make it better. Yeah, you know? So I do have ideas, if you're curious, Android. Like, I can give you a sneak peek, since I have my phone nearby, you know, if you want to hear it. My re-recordings of the ending of this side mission, of like just the boss fight section. I'm still working on everything. Obviously it's not done because I gotta do custom art for the existing side mission. I I gotta do stuff for the Tweedles, I gotta do stuff for White Rabbit, I gotta do stuff for the Gothamized Wonderland. So keep in mind that nothing is done. Everything is basically being worked on arbitrarily when I have time to work on it. So nothing is like set in stone completely. I do have the test recording of the original thing, but I also have this, which is a better simplified version of what we needed to do, or what I needed to do for the boss fight. So
finally getting to the top of the clock tower, it would be the same as the original, making your way inside the room, seeing Alice being held hostage by Jarvis. Unlike the original, you cannot use the reverse batarang because you don't have it, and also Jarvis would be surrounded by his subordinates, which makes this segment a lot more different and also a lot harder, because if you use the wrong gadget at the wrong time, it will block it and you will die along with Alice. Similarly to the Hush QuickTime event in Batman Arkham Knight, you have to wait for the precise right moment to do a back claw pull to pull Hatter towards you to knock him out, but as you do so, he will flash you and this will begin the boss fight. Because this is his first time having one in the series, I'm going to be taking a lot of liberties, pulling a lot of concepts from various fights in the Arkham series, the main ones being the Batman and also Scarecrow fight, along with some elements from Raish from Arkham City. Similar to Raish's fight, Batman would appear back in Wonderland in a section that's completely controlled by the Hatter that is split into 3 bits. Eventually, after running around, some illusions of Hatter would appear, in which initiates a little bit of combat before a big illusion would appear at the edge of the arena. First, using different basic chess pieces that you have to dodge, or have to fight them. Once you defeat enough, you would start to use other basic attacks like laser eyes, and also use hypnotic lasers that he can send out throughout the entirety of the board. Then he would pull out cards that he can throw, and some of them come to life that you have to fight as well. After he pulls out his knife and starts to use it on the board, after that phase, he would pull out his clock and try to blast you, and you can use the explosive gel launcher to explode it, putting it into the first phase, where obviously he would dissipate for a brief amount of time.
So that's what I have recorded, at least for like my changes to the actually giving Hatter a boss fight in the series, because one, I wanted to, obviously, if we're going to recycle Scarecrow's like concepts, I wanted there to be a bit of that with also major changes. So like, even though he's doing like multiple phases, as like you can hear me bring up, he's like, oh, he'll throw cards, he'll do this. There is like mini points that give you a window to open him up for brief bits of damage. So it's not like you can't, it's not like you're stuck in a sense of you can do absolutely nothing. There is windows of opportunity for things you can do. It's just when he pulls out the clock, that gives you a final window. And maybe like brief bits of like using different gadgets to open him up here and there for small attacks. Windows are a key factor. So, like, for instance, let's say, because of the attacks he does use. Also, by the way, I did put out a brief short for Lego Batman 3. If you want to check that out, you can. So far, it hasn't done too well, which surprises me, because, like, that scene is freaking hilarious, but whatever. People are buttheads. So, yeah. So, what do you think so far? Do you have any suggestions, any things you'd like to add? I am not one to give you any crap just because because of, like, if you have any ideas, go ahead. I ain't gonna give you any issues about that. I'm very, very open when it comes to ideas, mostly. If people have any. That's the key thing. And keep in mind that I'm making a lot of the assets for, like, the Hatter section myself. So, when it comes to, like, if you're curious, like, oh, wait, well, how long is it going to take you to get stuff done? It ain't going to be done at any time fucking soon. Because of, like, one, just, like, how much work I gotta, it takes to get, like, just, like, brief little boss fight fan art figured out and done, on top of doing, well, not really fan art, but, like, concept art to show, I don't want to give anybody, like, some type of, like, oh, it's gonna be done so soon. Like, no, I'm working as quickly as I can. But the thing is that a lot of things have set me back a bit, which have pushed the video back, and I wanted to get this done fairly soon. But due to, like, obvious reasons, I couldn't really just get it done. So it's probably not gonna come out for a while. I'm hoping I can get it done by Christmas. That's the plan. But also, when you have, like, this, like the comic I'm needing to do, I need to do my requested art, I need to do A, B, and C video editing wise. There really isn't a whole lot of windows of opportunity for me to sit down and be like, okay, this is something I gotta do, and blah blah blah, you know. Also, I am gonna put a link in the stream to, like, one of the shorts. So if, like, you want to watch and share and blah blah blah, it's there. So yeah, there is that. Because, like, I will say I've tried to focus more on getting, like, the biggest projects done, and that is not an easy task when, like, the projects you're working on most of the time are, I would say, fairly complicated. So it sets me back a bit most of the time when I'm doing stuff like this, like working on the comic, because comic art is, like, no easy task. You know, like, comics are a bunch of jobs. Like, you have to be your own inker, your penciler, anatomy, storyboard artist, letterer, stuff like that. And, like, at the end of the day, like, I can only do a set amount of panels per week. That's why, like, I tried to work on, like, something Off and on, I just try not to do it too often because you know, there's a lot of like burnout if I go in and work on something like this, because I have like the cover probably can get me, like, I can probably do the cover since I have that like figured out and like just need to like tweak it a bit and get that done in like maybe an hour, because comic covers are relatively, I guess would say, simple if you know exactly what you want. And if you don't know what you want, then yes, they're hard. But if you know exactly, be like, okay, I want something that'll grab people, I have a good idea here. I would say the only difficult part would probably be putting your brain to the task and drawing it, which I found to be the most difficult part, really. You know, like, it's really just, it's like really just putting yourself in the mindset of like actually drawing what you want on the page, which is no different than doing like this, where you're working on panels, you're working on stuff, because it's basically just like, okay, I need to make sure I know exactly what I want, and sometimes that's not an easy task, because like you have to like physically be in a mental state of like, okay, A, B, C, D. You know, it's like I gotta have exactly the right idea for stuff, you know. And when I'm like working on this, like when I'm working on an actual comic, it's a brand new ball game compared to like doing regular art. Like regular art for me is like, it's still difficult, but it's like, it's less difficult because you already have an idea of something. Like, you basically are like, it's just fan art. It's just simple stuff. Like, you're working off of just the idea of like, you're not telling a story, you're just kind of like trying to pizzazz people, showing something really cool. Which is kind of like what concept art can be like for me sometimes. At least easy concept art. But other times it's more of a challenge because you're having to work against the machine. That is life. And that's the thing, is like, you have to know what you want, what you got an idea for. If your art skill isn't there, it's not there. And I know that there's a lot of like, I would say if people were going to go and look at this and like, you know, pick at it and pick at the comic art, they probably could find a bunch of glaring issues with the final product. Like, yeah, like there are probably things that I didn't realize when creating it that you would say, oh, well, this needed work, this could have used a little bit more here, stuff like that. It's just simple things that you wouldn't really think of when doing something, compared to you know, stuff that you you realize later on how difficult it really is. Because you gotta work against a machine that's wired against you. Most of the time, that's not an easy task. Because comics are one of those mediums that is like, you have to... It's not... And I don't want to sit there and say that, like, oh, it's so difficult. If, like... It's one of those things that you really have to have the drive to do it if you want to do it. Because if you try to half-ass it in any type of way, it's going to show. And you don't have to be a big-time comic book artist to do a comic. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you're going to do a comic, if you're going to do something in that realm, make sure that it is something that you will stick to. Because if you don't stick to it, and you feel like you don't feel like you are going to stick to it, I wouldn't recommend completely doing it right now. Like, if you're at a point in your life where you can't just physically do it, I wouldn't say or tell you to force yourself to do something that you cannot do at a point in your life, because I don't know, at least with comics, at least what I've found when drawing it, at least with practicing with this, it has to be something that you gotta stick to, because it's gotta be something you have to practice on, you have to really iron out your skill. And I found that when doing this, it is something that I've had to really iron out what I'm capable of, and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I'm probably not going to be streaming for too long when working on this, because obviously I don't want to stay doing this for too long, and I don't feel like, you know, beating around the bush. I do wish maybe I could stream to Twitch as well, but for some, they've locked the ability to do that, so I am stuck streaming only to YouTube or Twitch. So multi-streaming is out of the option until I can find a way to do that through like a PC or a streaming app that is better for me, which I do plan on doing, since, you know, that is, I don't know, but yeah. Also, let me preview the stream real quick. Yeah, I can see, and I've been streaming for like an hour. I might take a break and try to get some recording done here in a bit, but I don't know. Because, like, for me, comic stuff is a whole new ball game and a whole new challenge that even I did not foresee when doing it originally. I kind of just thought, oh, it's gonna be something simple. It's just drawing, but with pictures. No, it is not. It is, but it also isn't. And that's the thing. Like, you don't realize until you start doing it. And yeah. But since I got a little bit of work done, I've got like I think I got a bit of work on the lightsabers. Got a little bit of anatomy here for his hand that isn't perfect, but it's something. Ow, and all that. I think I'm gonna call it. I might try to work on some sketches on my phone or something and try to do some stuff. But for right now, I hope you guys have a good rest of your guys' night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is for you guys in the world. Yeah, I've been here the whole time just listening. Hold on, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Somewhat listening, I just also filming a gaming vid. Okay. Well, I'm probably gonna call it because it's been in like an hour and stuff like that. But I hope you have fun with like the recording stuff you're doing, and all that. But I am kind of tired, but also I gotta work on some stuff. So I am going to go do that and all that. So have a good rest of your guys' night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is for you in the world. Peace out. Bye-bye. Yes. Yes.